Happy All Hallows Eve, everyone! Welcome to Gracefully Catholic. I'm Jessica, and today I'm going to be talking about a Catholic tradition relating to All Hallows Eve, or as we now call it, Halloween. Now, I am going to be discussing soul cakes, which I made a batch of. As it is an old tradition, there are many different recipes and many different shapes for making them. I picked the more common and frankly the one I've seen the most of. It's round. It has raisins or currants in it. It's in a cross shape because that's important later. And also yellow is apparently very important for soul cakes because this has both either turmeric or saffron in it to just make it yellow, along with only using egg yolks and not the white to increase the amount of yellow on it. So I'm thinking originally it was probably to look like a moon, or it could just be much like how in the Day of the Dead for Mexico and related cultures, yellow flowers are important. Perhaps the people of England, Ireland, and Wales in early Christian history also considered yellow just to be a super good, important color to have for things related to dead people. Anyway, down below I'll have the exact recipe I used. I want to thank Maria Brown for proofreading my recipe because I took multiple recipes, adjusted it for modern kitchens while attempting to make it something that people back then would make. So you'll notice in the recipe there's no baking soda, there's no baking powder, because back in the Middle Ages people did not know about this. You can find some soul cake recipes that use yeast because although they didn't know what yeast was, they essentially used yeast. But I went with the not using yeast one because this is, for the most part, all ingredients they could have, but were fancy and expensive. Anyway, you might be wondering, what in the world does this weird cookie have to do with Halloween or Catholicism? And the answer is, apparently the British will take any chance they could back in the Middle Ages to have a party in which they go from house to house, drinking and dancing and singing songs, and just essentially a moving party. So why wassailing was done for Christmas time, souling was done for Halloween. Or, more exactly, sometime during the days between either the Eve of All Saints to All Souls Day. Now, what souling was a group of people, either younger people or poorer people, would go door to door. Like I said, there was drinking, there was dancing, they'd sing songs, but the main point was they would go to a door, they would offer to say prayers for the deceased members of that household or their extended family in exchange for something. For example, most of the time, it came to the form of a soul cake. This was essentially what you would give to someone in exchange for, say, praying for your dead parents. And this worked both because, it is the time in which you remember the deceased. It's a special month for praying for the souls in purgatory. And also, well, it's a tasty treat. And it's going to go and make those people be more interested in actually going out and, praying for them. So for a long time, a Catholic tradition was, especially in areas of Northern Europe like England and Ireland, that on a day you would go out, you would sing a actual song that is now been, done down to a set of lyrics, but back then probably ranged in both tune, instruments, and exact lyrics, in which you agree to exchange praying for someone in order to get treats, which I'm sure many of you can now be like, that sounds vaguely familiar, because a lot of historians think that trick-or-treating started out as souling. So, today, in the eve of a major feast day, why don't you make up a batch of soul cakes, which, as you can see, are more like cookies than cakes, but essentially the original word for cookies was little cake, so it works out. And remind your children or family as a whole, the importance of, in this upcoming month of November, praying for your deceased loved ones.
Soul cake, please this is a soul cake. An apple, a pear, a plum, a cherry, any good thing to make us all merry. One for Peter, two for Paul, three for him who made us all. God bless the master of this house and bless the mistress also, and all